Yeah. Wow. It's really amazing what happens when all the devices shut down. Yeah.
When the power goes out, it's amazing.
It is amazing what we're used to, right?
It's so quiet.
Where I used to live a while ago, we lived in a house. It was an old house too, like I think it was built in the 40s, and we weren't really up on all the gadgets either. And when the power went out, and then when the power would come back on, it was like a ship would like come back to life. And we weren't really. There was just a few little lights, you know. I mean, some houses. Yeah, the noise that we get used to. Yeah, that's like when you start meditating, right? And you start realizing the noise that you're used to is quite loud. Yeah, it's like I do work and construction, and I'm always working around these like loud machinery. It always blows me away when it shuts off, because your mind just kind of gets used to it. Yeah, there's a really vast and clear and completely still and totally quiet part of you that you can live from. You can, and it makes sense too, right? It logically makes sense that there has to be a place like that in you, or you couldn't hear noise. How could you, right? How could you be aware of noise if there wasn't a place for the noise to arise from or to be experienced from? So there's and all of reality is like that, essentially. There's you know, and what we're trying to do in our life in a meditation is find the middle. Find the middle. Yeah, it's like this thing where the grass is always greener on the other side, right? And it is. It's so green over there, you know. And it's a this is the illusion, right? This is the great illusion. The great illusion is that we believe this process that is continually spinning around in the mind, and that is that for some reason it's very hard for us to be like happy with the moment. There's always like some kind of like scheme going on or a plan going on. Like we're either like ruminating about our plans, or we're like thinking about the past or something, right? And it's always up against some self that we believe in, that we wish we were or hope we will be. And that our inborn desire to be happy is mistakenly associated with all those things that run in our mind that thinks, oh, you know, okay, you know, when I complete this project, I'll have some happiness. Right? Like you're in the middle of a project, and the mind's like, well, I just got to get this done. I just have to get this done, and when I get it done, I'll get my coffee break. Right? I'll get my break. You know, and it relates to everything. We don't even. I think that even extends to death. Like we have this ridiculous idea that somehow we don't continue when the body stops, and we'll finally get the coffee break at death or something. And that's not like we continue, right? So the great illusion is is meditating enough and doing these kinds of meditations that, for instance, that we're going to do tonight, enough to see that what we must do is actually get off of that thing and become the kind of person that sees themselves as being happy with the moment and transferring that incessant desire to accomplish a project or acquire something to an obsessive desire to have the kind of mind that doesn't need that. Because that will just continue to roll until you do something about it. Unless you do something about it, that will always be there. There will always be another carrot. There will always be something that you in the future, and you'll never get to reside in the moment, in the present moment, which is actually completely and totally ironic because we are in the moment. We can't not be in the moment. We just, for some reason, have this weird perception that we're not. And that's an illusion. You see? It's all a very, very believable thought pattern that keeps us like on edge, never happy, never content, never, right? Because if you continue with these meditations, you'll gain the power to see that you are only the moment. There was never ever a past or a future. Your perception of the past and your perception of the future is always in the moment. It's always now. And yet we have this, we're so influenced by the future and by the past. What someone said to me before. And it's so crazy that we would hold on to what somebody said to us before that is, either we're holding on to it in a compliment way. Yeah, that one time that person told me that I did a good job. And you just like, you brush up against that, oh yeah, I remember that when the teacher said I was a good boy, right? And or the other times when we're like, someone asked you to do something, and, you didn't want to do it, but you did it, and then you didn't thank you for it. Where's my thanks? And by the time that's gone, like 3 days later, you're a completely different person. You're a completely different arising of colors and shapes and objects and sounds, and always, always, always arising in the moment. Always. But for some reason, we can't deal with it. And that's enlightenment. Like when you can think of everything that is on the left and on the right being like the past and the future, or any way you want to look at it, high and low, and your investment in those things, your investment in high, your investment in low. Because if your mind is ruminating on the low, you have an investment in the low. You're interested in the low. You're all all about the low. You don't have to do that. It's like, so if you think about all those opposites, and then you gain this power to see what it's doing to you, what this perception is doing to your life, and you get off of that, then you are in the middle. You have hit the ultimate middle. And then you can actually be available in the moment for anybody and for yourself, and you can be happy with whatever's going on because you don't have a story about it. You don't have a pre-written story about what it's supposed to look like. And if it doesn't look like, then that means I failed in life, or that means I succeeded in life. And that's a horror movie. That's why we're in trouble all the time, because we haven't been able to distinguish the fact that it's all our own fault. Anyway, let's meditate. Yes, let's meditate. So yeah, shake up the body if you need to, scroll around. Yeah. Is this your first time to Three Jewels?
Yes.
Hi, what's your name?
Serena.
Serena?
Sí, Serena.
Serena. Ah, I'm John.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. This is everybody else. Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Thank
Yeah. There's just no time for names right now. You can make your rounds later.
you.
Everyone will introduce themselves to you in a very loving way.
Yes.
They're very clean. Cleaner than me.
Thank you for all these divine offerings. Black water. Looks very rock star. This is a 7-year pen. I was given this pen. It's got a peacock feather on it, and their claim is that this will last for 7 years. This can write 1 linear meter per day for 7 years. This is their claim. We shall see if I can even own it for 7 years. When I received it, I thought, well, if Mishi sees it, it will be a 1-day pen for me, because she's a pen vacuum. I don't know where they go, but they just disappear when you get near her. Okay, so yeah. So it's probably going to get warm. So we'll do our meditation, and then rest assured that after the horror is over, we'll open everything up and get the wind blowing through. So just try and be patient with the heat, because I think the noise is worse. So take some time to settle your body now. Use your breath to help you relax your body and your mind. First, inhale deeply, and as you inhale, expand and draw the crown towards the sky so you get taller, and if you're laying down, just like you're getting longer and straighter. And then keep that nice lift as you exhale. Shoulders relax. Jaw is soft. Tongue resting naturally at the roof of the mouth where it meets the teeth. Relax the forehead. So these meditations in this class, by the time we reach this state, hopefully, this may take a while to gain this kind of meditative seat, but eventually you will be able to remain completely immobile, so your body doesn't move at all. And now simply be aware of the breath as it rises and falls in the belly, and use that rise and fall of the belly by just enjoying the experience and not trying to put a story onto it. Just enjoy the physical sensation of the rise and fall of the breath at the belly. It's like you're tying your mind to a post, you know. You're bringing it in, giving it something that is in the moment so that it can stay there. Trying right away to develop a sense of humor about the whole thing. You know, you don't want to be having a mind that is struggling to attain something or thinking it's supposed to attain something. And it can help just to take the corners of your mouth and bring them up slightly so that it takes the weight of seriousness off of your mind. And now let's draw the focus to a little more subtle object. Let's draw the mind up and watch the breath as it passes in and out of the nostrils. So you're bringing your mind now to be the passive watcher of the breath as it passes the points of the nostril. And that's all you're doing. If you find that your mind is feeling a little agitated or jumpy, you can count. It will help you to count. You may not need to count, but if you do, you can punctuate the breath so that the very end of your exhale is punctuated with the number 1. And then the next end of the next exhale is a number 2. If you make it to 10 without forgetting about counting, come back to 0. If you stray off, don't worry. Just relax, recall the object, the breath, and begin at 0 again. And rejoice. I don't think that it can be said enough that it is the moment of bringing your mind back. That is the training. Those are like your reps in the gym. You know, you're bringing your mind back, choosing to bringing your mind back to the object over and over. Getting so focused on the breath that everything from before is gone from your mind, and everything that is in the future is gone from your mind. You're just simply focusing on the breath passing at the nostril points. So now we're going to start making our transition that we've been doing, and that is moving further back so that we become an even more passive witness to our breath. Starting to relate to that watcher state of mind where you're watching your breath, not trying to control it, simply observing. Then we make that next transition, tiptoeing off of the breath and making that transition to watching our thoughts. And you're still sitting in the back, watching your thoughts, letting them rise and fall, washing over you like water. And then we take another step back. So let yourself fall back into that deeper state of meditation, falling back down somewhere near the heart. Almost like that sensation of falling back in a dream. Or like you're drifting off to sleep, but you're very awake, aware. And then you start that process of starting to deconstruct the thoughts that arise by seeing them as merely mental images. Just simply rising and falling objects of thought. And you can get into a deeper sense of this by noticing even subtle thoughts like your awareness of your body or of the room. And notice that they're mental images. They're pictures. So you're getting into this place, this realm of mind. And every perception that you have is simply a ripple on its surface, on the surface of your mind. Try to get to the point where you no longer identify with these ripples. You're not seeing them as discrete objects. You're just watching the movement. This is where you are practicing not engaging in the story around the images, simply observing as they come and go. Then turn your focus to the watcher, your own awareness. And watch as each object of thought comes up, how the subject state of mind and the image that arises in that same moment are completely indivisible from each other. As the thoughts in the mind start to fade, and they will fade if you don't pay attention to them. They don't really like that. They want your attention. As they start to fade off, then your focus starts to turn more to the nature of the moments of awareness themselves. What is this state of awareness? What is the knowing nature of the mind? Can the mind watch itself? You start to get this feeling that the mind is infinite. Start to get a glimpse of its bottomlessness. It is everything. What is this awareness? Who is this awareness? as we gently bring ourselves back, we can follow the sound of the bowl back. And remember to come out of your meditation gently, like a child. First your eyes open gently, and then you look down, and you slowly start to take in what your eyes see. Still trying to stay with your foundation, with your grounded center, at least accessing that place where you may have reached in your meditation. And you come fully back into the room. And we'll open up the windows, get some air going. The fans too, I think. So how do you find how are you finding that type of meditation? It's getting very subtle, right? It's getting very you're sort of on the edge of somewhere, you know, if you're doing it right, you know. Does anybody want to say anything or comment or share an experience that they've been having with these kinds of meditations, or anything that they may have just experienced? You enjoyed it?
It's very personal.
Yeah, it's very, you know, you don't have to share. Yeah.
I nodded off.
You nodded off.
I said it to myself too this morning. I'm like, I'm actually gonna nod off the meditation thing.
Yeah.
I made it.
You made it happen.
But I'm
Yeah.
not quite there yet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's all right. I mean, yeah. These kinds of meditations that we're doing they're kind of advanced meditations, really. They are. But it's good to hear them and try them, because you have to, you know, have gained a certain amount of like equilibrium, I guess, to be able to hang out there. And yeah. My first meditation class, I was asleep half the time. I gotta close these windows so I can't hear anything. Really, I was asleep half the time. And it didn't matter what I did either. I would pound coffee. And there's a part of our mind that goes unconscious when you're like, because these kinds of meditations, you're sort of breaking the ground of your reality in a way, and you're on the door or on the cusp of like cracking a stone, in a sense of cracking a belief system that has been just running in our minds without us even really being aware of it. And so you start to dance around seeing that it can be very common that at first the mind just shuts down. It just goes like, I'm so out of here. Yeah, and you just go to sleep. And so don't worry. Yeah, you know, and anybody here, if you're concerned at all about you know, having a noisy mind, or like, don't worry. You know, everyone starts out with a noisy mind. You know, I would venture to guess that my mind was probably noisier than anybody's mind is in this room when I started. It was, I don't know, you know, I can't imagine anybody's anybody's mind being noisier than it was. It was really, really bad. Really bad. It was like, I don't know, like static radio almost. It was like if you took an FM radio and started turning the dials, and it was like going into one station and then get fuzzy, and then other, and I was like other languages and all kinds of crazy stuff going on until it finally calmed down. So don't worry, and it's worth every moment that you put in. It's worth it every moment. So here's the thing about those kinds of meditations. You're trying to get to this place where you're sitting like outside of hope and outside of fear, right? It's like you can't be sitting there thinking, I got to get to a deeper place. Because right in that very thought process kicks you out of that place where you're trying to get to, right? So if you're doing it right, you should be, how would you describe it? You should be just floating on the edge of not quite being able to get what the heck's going on. And so it's, is that a question?
I
Yeah.
had this out-of-body experience when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's kind of like that. Like just sort of sitting outside yourself and actually watching and feeling completely peaceful. I don't know. It's just a thought that I had when you were saying that.
Well, was it peaceful for you when you left your body as a child?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And then it freaked me out, so I
Freaked you
woke
out.
myself up.
And you came back.
And then I came back.
Yeah.
Instantly, but it was just for a moment, and it was just unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like that in a way, except for in these kinds of meditations, you want to have that experience where you're actually really not going anywhere. You don't feel like you're drifting off and separating from some part of yourself. It's more like you're becoming more whole and you're becoming more in your seat and aware of what's happening around you. These types of meditations, however, can induce those kinds of experiences, though, where your consciousness shifts into like another realm and you do experience yourself floating off. And but the experience of floating off and actually feeling like you're moving off is a different type of exercise. And this, what you want to be doing is not floating off and staying and watching things float. Put it that way, like your thoughts or your experience. And it will be very peaceful when you reach that place. So it's like, if you're having thoughts like, I need to go deeper, then you need to shift you need to relax and loosen so that you can hang out on this place where you're trying to force yourself into seeing the nature of your mind. You're trying to get the mind to see the mind, which is really kind of a great trick to pull off. Yeah, because you're trying to get a glimpse of this crystalline, undescribable vastness that is your mind, that you can actually relate to as what you are. And if you're doing it right, then you're hovering around this area where you wouldn't really be able to describe your experience in words, right? It's you could only really maybe dance around and point at it, but there's some part of the meditation, or some part of, maybe if you're getting to that kind of a place, where there will be no conceptual word that you can lay a story on the experience, because there's a part of our mind that is outside of the conceptual overlay that we must put on our experience, and it goes back to that same truth, right? You can't really have a dualistic conceptual experience without that non-conceptuality. That has to be there, and you cannot describe it. But you've got to see it, and you have to feel it and experience it to know it. And the ultimate expression of that would be actually you looking at your own mind face to face, which is a very, very subtle situation, so much so that you might not even be aware that it's even going on. And then so you're developing this ability so that as you walk around, and maybe, yeah, sure, you have this body, however you may see your body, but the you that you relate to is the undescribable, constant, crystalline, diamond-like mind that is completely undescribable. And people will say to you, like, how you doing? And you can't really say. And because like, if you say, yeah, I'm doing good, you just know that that's just you can't even say how you're doing, because you're in this place. And, yeah, well, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, well, ask me tomorrow, I'll say the same thing. I'm good. And that's where you want to live, So I wanted to talk about ways to use this, hopefully this dawning understanding and dawning awareness of these thoughts that happen and what we can do with them, right? And a few classes ago, we talked about at the end of the day doing like the rejoicing in the 3 best things you did, and then looking at with intelligent regret about the 3 worst things we did. That's going to still remain part of the program. Okay, that's a crucial part of the program. If you wish to really become the captain of your ship and know what's going on, you have to know everything that's going on, right? So you have to make these observances. So today I wanted to talk to you about a really, really beautiful thing called the 8 worldly thoughts. Okay, this, as far as I'm concerned, is some kind of miracle. And this will give you some way to relate to how your mind is relating to the world in an unhealthy way, in a way that is the opposite of what I was saying earlier today, which was trying to cultivate a mind that understands that really what you desire is to be off of desire. Off of wanting. I was saying this in class last night, that the the irony of a journey like this, really, is that these kinds of practices and behaving certain ways in the world, being very kind to people, will give you everything that you want. But by the time you reach that place, you won't want anything. Right? And that's where you're trying to go, so that it doesn't matter to you what is presented to you or what is appearing in your life. You're satisfied. And that is a certain state of mind. That's got nothing to do with stuff. It's a state of mind. And it's a state of mind that is cultivated by stopping the other kind of mind, which is always thinking that it's going to get its happiness from feeling a certain way for short periods of time. So, the 8 worldly thoughts. And these are really amazing, because you'll find if you look at any situation in your life and look at any situation, you'll find one of these will be present. If the thing's bothering you, if you're not at peace with what's going on, you'll find one of these. So the first one is being happy when you get what you want. When you get what you want. And number 2 is being unhappy when you don't get what you want. Okay? That's the first 2. And you would look at any situation and, you know, are you happy in that situation simply because you got what you wanted for a second? You know? Or are you unhappy in that situation simply because you didn't get what you thought you should get or wanted? And then number 3, being happy when you feel good. I'm just going to start writing less words. Being happy when you feel good. Number 4, being unhappy. Okay, I'll do this. I can make it even easier. Being unhappy when you feel bad. Okay? So then it's like you start to get this sense of the roller coaster ride that is appearances in life, right? Things are coming and going all the time, and if we have these big time investment in the outcomes of things, and you know, you can't have your happiness dependent on whether or not you have a toothache or not. You can't. Like, you have to be developing this mind that is content whether you twist your ankle or you don't, you know, or whether you, you know, you had a sore back and then all of a sudden you get up in the morning and the back feels good today. It's gone, right? You can't be dependent on those things, because those things are going to constantly be coming and going. They can't be pulling you around. Say, number 5, being happy when someone says something nice about you. Says something nice about you. You get a compliment, right? You get a compliment and you're in a good mood for 2 hours. What about when the compliments run out, right? Number 6, being unhappy when someone says something unpleasant about you. Someone calls you a name. Someone assumes something about you and makes known their thoughts about what they think you are, right? You can't have your happiness dependent on whether someone says something nice about you, or whether someone says something unpleasant about you, or forget about your happiness then. That's not going to stop. Actually, what will happen is this is what's going to happen. This is my promise. If you do your work and you treat people really wonderfully in the world and you love people, what's going to happen is you're going to have all the odd numbers. You're going to have all the ones and the threes and the fives. You got to deal with those too. People will be saying all these great things about you, and people will be offering you stuff all the time. You'll never be without stuff. And that can also not be what you're relying on for your happiness, because this is going to happen. I warn you. Okay. Number 7, being happy when you're well known. I used to think about that when I was, I don't know, when I was in my, I guess, mid-20s, and I was really trying hard to be a rock star. And I often thought about why I wanted it, you know? And I thought to myself, is my self-esteem so low that I actually need to, like, walk out in front of 10,000 people to think I'm great? I used to think that. Like, why do I want fame? Why do I want it? Like, what does it matter, right? I thought a lot about that, actually. Yeah, I went through all kinds of stuff about that. Like, I had friends that, like, were making it. I was jealous of them and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, you get over that stuff, right? If you're lucky, if you're really lucky, and I'm sure that probably everybody here is at that place, if you're really lucky, then you reach that insane place where you begin to notice. You begin to notice the things that you're doing with your mind, and the things that you're thinking, and you're kind of horrified a little bit. You go through this phase, and that's how you draw the poison out, is simply by being aware of it. And when you do these kinds of things, you won't be able to help it. You'll be aware of it. So then finally, being unhappy if you're unknown. Nobody knows about you. All the great things that you've done, no one knows. Nobody knows, you know. And I can relate to that. So, I mean, as a musician, right, like as a songwriter especially, you can have these like great moments. You know, maybe you're with one other person and you're writing a song or something, and it's just the greatest it will ever be, and nobody was there, you know, and it's like, oh, that's a shame. It's a shame that, you know, no one got to see me do that, right? That's like so not the point. That is so like far from enlightenment, you know. It's like, yeah, if you can. You need to reach a place where you're doing what you're doing purely for the joy of doing it. There's no other reason. And what we have to do is trick ourselves into understanding that the things that we do for other people in loving ways, we need to like make that like our bliss, in a way, like where you start to get this understanding of how wonderful it is to be of service to other people, and how in those times you do lose yourself. Like like here's a hint, right? About a hint about enlightenment. A hint about being fully present in the moment. Present in the moment. When you're like aware of a self, you're not in the moment. When you have this aware of like me and you, like you're like I help you, right? You know, of course, that's beautiful, and that's wonderful. And on the way, we must go through this place where we do experience ourselves being very loving towards people, but when you know this because when you're truly present, you're not there. Like there's a part of you that you relate. The part of you that relates to you as this schemer, planner, recollector, evaluator is not there. You're purely immersed totally in the moment with this other person, and you are gone to yourself, and you generally don't even know about it until it's over, till that time period is over, and then you can use those moments. You can look back and go, wow, like I was happy for 5 minutes because I was not there. The me that I usually relate to, that always wants, was not there. Because that's like the itch, right? You'll never scratch that itch. The want will never stop. I was I think my first like real glimpse of that was I was in Diamond Mountain University in the middle of the desert. It was at 2 a.m, as of course it would be at Diamond Mountain, and we had just done some courses, and they went late, and it was time for bed, and somebody had locked their keys in their car, and I was the only one around to help, and I had this mind of like, it's 2 a.m, you know, you got to be kidding me, right? But I went and helped this person. I don't know, maybe it took like 20 minutes to get the coat hanger and do all the things that, you know, I got into her car, and, you know, she was so happy, you know, the relief of getting into your car finally. And then I sat down, and it was like 2:30 by then. And I sat down, and I thought, wow, like I was not there. It was profound for me. I was like, wow, I was really happy. I was really sincerely happy for a good 20 minutes. I gave her everything I had. Everything I had for 20 minutes. And I forgot about myself. And I never forgot that after that. I never forgot that. Because I had teachings all along about like lose yourself in love with others. And I had kind of gotten it on an intellectual level. But that was my first time, I think, that I really had a solid hit on what that means. Yeah, and then if you can start to recognize when you're relating to the world, wanting things in a worldly way, you can suck that out of your mind and then get a very different idea of yourself. There's always a self, don't get me wrong, but the perception, the concept of yourself as a suffering, never happy, I hope this works out, is sucked out of your mind, you see? Because that's not your essential nature. That's not what you are. That is what you're here to get rid of. Right? It's not the things. It's not the whether or not you get the check from the government. It's not whether or not you get the job. It's not whether or not your car breaks down or doesn't break down. It's none of those things. It's whether or not the mind that is dependent on those things to work out is living inside of you or not. That's the only thing that matters. And everything that you're doing in your life is specifically, hopefully, should be for that purpose and that purpose only, to suck that mind out of your mind stream. Because until it's gone, you cannot, it is actually impossible for you to be happy. So stop trying to make this shit work, because it's not going to work. Okay? So what you do with this now, hopefully you've written it down, and I'll leave it in case you want to decipher it later. But what you do is, along with your pluses and minuses at the end of the day, this is not so much an end of the day thing. This is like stopping during the day and observing something that you've been doing, and observing something specifically. In the beginning, it will be something that upset you. Later on, it will be something that you're really happy about, in a very flighty, ungrounded way. Be like, woo, right? And then you're taken off your center with this happiness, right? And then you'll have to look at these things. So like an example would be like today, like say for instance, if I had, let's say you, let me think. I forget what this is like. So if tomorrow morning, okay, I'm going to Langley, for instance, to work. I have to be there at 7:30 in the morning, right? And so that's going to be like an hour and 20 minutes for me to drive to work, which is unusual. I'm used to like a 20-minute drive, right? So if that upset me, then I could go to this list and go like, well, why am I not happy? Oh, I'm just unhappy because I'm not getting my 20-minute drive to work. I'm forced into an hour and a half, right? Or and then you could think, well, it's not like I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to phone up my boss and say, well, that's just too far. Sorry, I'm just not happy with that. And then you can see, like, why am I not happy about it? What? Because what in that situation is making me unhappy? And you can go over things like, well, maybe it'll probably be a very nice drive out to Langley. Maybe, for some people it'll be like, some people get up to go on road trips. We're going to Starbucks. All right, it's 5 a.m. Right? So, but then, what if I finally come to terms with that, and then I get a phone call from my coworker that says, hey, can you go by the boss's place and pick up the pressure washer on your way to Langley? And, my mind can easily go, are you kidding me? Like, it's already bad enough. And you want me to add a half an hour on again to the, And so then if you had that kind of insanity going on, you could again go, okay, what now, right? You could be thinking all kinds of things, but probably being unhappy because you're not, who is this person who how, don't they know it's already an hour and a half? Don't they know I'm already going to get up at 5? Now they're asking for 4:30, right? And it's like, if you understand the way the world works, you can see that as a great opportunity. Like, oh, great, I'll get to help. I'll get to help somebody who needs to get something done, and you can forget about yourself and help somebody, and there's an opportunity there. You can look at it like that. Or you can be Mr. Pouty Face, put on your diapers and just be pouty and say, no, I will not pick up that pressure washer for you. Right? So, just a kind of a lame example, but I couldn't think of a better one. But you could think of like all kinds of things, like whether you're getting a compliment, like, you do something nice for somebody and they don't say thank you, or they don't stroke you, like, oh, you're such a great person, thank you. And then you're like, they didn't even thank me. I didn't get anything for that, you know. Then you can really go, wow, like I was unhappy because someone didn't say something nice about me. And then you can see for yourself how crazy your mind is. Thinking, wow, I'm actually upset because someone didn't stroke my ego. I'm in trouble. And you do that enough times, you'll catch it. You'll catch it in the moment. You'll catch this thing, this animal that lives inside of you that just wants to be the king or the queen of your world, right? And further than that, it's always related to a self that you're invested in. You've put some investment in some certain idea that you have of a self that you want to be. Not only do you want to be that self, but you want other people to think you're that self too. And they can't think that. They can only see you how they're forced to see you. Yeah. And if they've been really kind and beautiful, they will see you as a beautiful person. And it's not your fault. Right? It's not your fault. And that can free you because, you know, someone can say things about you that maybe you think you wish they didn't say. And you can think, well, that's their interpretation of me. They're being forced to see me in that light. And that's not your fault either. Because what's going to happen when you do these meditations, you will start to gain leverage. You will start to gain this point where you begin to watch your mind do its thing in the world. And then you have some power. Then you can do something about it. And at first, it will probably simply be just restraining yourself. Just restraining yourself. Sometimes that's all you can do is just go into another room or just be quiet. Smile and nod, something. And because what you want to do is not, if you continue to react in the same old ways that you used to, then the same old world will continue to arise. That's really the bottom line. It's just that simple. So this is a way to watch how you normally react in a situation, see it, make a choice to react differently, react in a more loving way, and then so create a whole different world for yourself. Yeah. 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 Can you guys hear her in the back? Can you speak a little louder if you could? It's going to be a good story, I can tell.
It's great. Just wait. I'll try and make it shorter. I was in the park with my dog, and these girls needed somewhere to sit, and they had a lot of food, and I was watching them, and they'd gone to a bed. Oh wait, there's a picnic table. So they go over to the picnic table. Oh, there's a bag of dog poo on the table. Who would do that? And blah blah blah, like in their thing. And my knee-jerk normal reaction would be like, you can just take it off and put in the garbage, like it's in a bag. But I was like, no, actually I'll just observe myself and them and see how this like plays out. And then I wasn't sure what direction I was going to go on with it, but I watched them awkwardly put their things on a bench, and then I was like, I could do something for someone else. I have a poo bag in my back pocket, and I've been doing the work and just like really seeing the benefits of living in gratitude and living in loving kindness, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do something for someone they didn't thank me, but I didn't care. And they got a table, and it was just like such a really cool experience of being the watcher, which I haven't actually got to in meditation, but I did in real life, and then being able to do something for somebody else. And it was really, it's the simplest, like weirdest experience, but I experienced a lot of the things that I've been learning. And so
Nice. That's great. That's great. No, you know what? That's great. And then you said, and then you added in there, but I haven't reached it in meditation. But
maybe I have.
right? I mean, because the point is not to stay in meditation. The point is to actually sit up off your cushion and take it into the world. So, really, whatever you've been doing, you've managed to experience it in the world. So that would be a successful meditation, right? So.
Can I add something to this?
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, you had mentioned that we're here to serve, right?
Yeah.
And I started to be more aware of what I do to others and
Yeah.
little trivial things during the day. And I realized that the poop on the table, these little things are really what makes me feel, I don't want to say happy, because it's not about, but I just felt good about myself, and they kept adding up, and it becomes addictive, and you just
Yeah.
keep doing these little things that at the end of the day, when it's time to choose the 3 best ones, you're having a hard time to
Aha. That's great.
And
So
then it just becomes normal.
it becomes
It's
normal.
not like, I did all these good things today. It's just, well, this is just life.
But unfortunately, in a few of these things, I was expecting a thank you.
Aha.
You know, it's not with
Aha.
and
Right.
it made me completely upset, and I completely failed. So the castle collapsed, and I had to start all over.
Are you kidding? Are you just with that?
No, it's true.
Yeah. So
Unfortunately.
yeah. The castle never collapsed.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry. No, it never doesn't. You know, good
I
deeds
feel
don't
like
go
it
unanswered.
anyway.
Yeah.
So how do you separate that from ego then? Okay, I want to sometimes stop myself from doing things for people because then there's no healthy boundary, or where is it a healthy boundary and where is it where I'm providing service? You know. Or
Yeah. That's a good question.
Am I doing it to try to make them happy or myself happy? And then, well, if what I'm doing really shouldn't make them happy at all because nobody is happy because of anything. You know.
Yeah. It's a tricky thing, right?
Yeah.
So there's like a long answer to that, but I'll try and make it short. So it's true that especially as we're learning to, I don't know, you could say like cherish others, right? You could say that, right? Developing a mind that actually cherishes other people. As we're developing that kind of mind, because believe me, it's a development. It's a development, right? To go from a mind that's totally like self-cherishing and then to like be cherishing others, that is a very substantial development. Yeah. So in the meantime, as you're doing that, you do have to be careful about like your capacity, right? Like you don't want to overextend yourself so that you're like you feel like you're giving so much that you then regret it. Because then it becomes you don't want to regret the good things you do. That's not good for your mind. Okay. But to truly understand what's happening there is like, because people go through this thing where they go, well, I don't want to feel like I'm being taken advantage of, right? I don't want to feel like I'm being taken for granted. I don't want to feel like people are walking all over me. You know? And we have that in the world. You see it all over the place, like once bitten, twice shy, right? People are hurt in a relationship, for instance, and it's like, never again. Right? I know some people like that. You know, they're in their 50s and they got like royally screwed over in their 20s. Right? And they're like scarred. right? And like rethinking that over and over and over again, and so it's like becomes almost impossible for someone to actually meet somebody and open their heart, because they've been doing this self-cherishing thing. No, right? Don't come anywhere near this thing, because it's right. Don't, right? But to understand how it is that we see our world, God, it's a tricky one. So we see our world in a way that's being forced upon us, right, by our past deeds. If you buy that idea, if you buy past lives and you buy the cause and effect. So, if we feel like we're being taken for granted or taken advantage of in a situation, that's born of causes that we put into place. So it's like we can only experience that by having done that to others, by having like trying to get the upper hand all the time on other people, always trying to be the winner in the situation, always, you know, looking for what I can get for free, who's giving it out, and going for that person or whatever, right? And that because of the mind's crystalline, completely neutral ability to reflect what you do and then bring it back to you in time and magnified, if you have a mind that is afraid that it's going to get walked over, it's from walking over people before. And so that helps in the moment to understand that. And then with that understanding, though, you just think, okay, I will give what I can give, but if it looks like they're taking advantage of me, that's not because I gave. See, that's the trouble we get into, is the time gap between what we plant and what we receive. Because if it were true that you could actually give something to somebody, a true act of, here's something that I would like to give you, and you experience it as a positive thing. If it were true that from that act you could then get something negative back from that, then this whole thing is just, we might as well just go home and get drunk. Then nothing makes any sense at all, right? If there was no time gap between what we plant and what we get, if there was no time gap, that would be equally insane, because then it would be like you could never give anything because you'd get it right back. You could never give anything. It'd be like you walk down and like some guy would be there going, homeless, anything helps, and you put a loonie and then it just pops back on your hand, like, right? Like, but there has to be a time gap, and sometimes that gap spans lifetimes, and sometimes it spans a week or a year. We don't really know. We don't really know, but I'll say this, and this may be a real noodle baker for some of you. Remember we talked about like the opposites, right? The left and the right, the you and the me. The reason, if you want the result to be almost instantaneous, then you have to close the gap between you and me and actually relate to yourself as them. And if you reach this place of total freedom, say total enlightenment, then you're no longer at odds with appearances. You no longer have a concept of a self that separates the world from itself. That's a concept that's been sucked out long time ago. So when an enlightened being gives the toonie, the enlightened being is giving itself a toonie. And everything and all the appearances all the appearances act just perfectly. They function perfectly. This is a really deep idea. So, because if what I said was true, and we're creating our world, we're creating our future world with everything that we do in the moment, then the world that you see is the stuff that you've done. The world that you see is the you that you've been arising, right? So, how could it be any other way? Like, if you have that kind of a mind and you give a blanket to a cold person, you understand that you are giving warmth to yourself because there's coldness in your world, because you saw coldness. We could talk about this all. It's really a crazy, deep idea, and to really understand this and to get whoa, that has to be true, you have to meditate. You have to log in time, and you have to get into that gap to understand how it is that your world is really actually coming from you. So your perception of a person, your perception of something arising as a negative thing after you did a positive thing, you have a deep and knowing understanding that that's impossible, that the good thing could have brought out something negative. There has to be a time gap. And that can go a long way to help you, because then you just get over yourself and bloody well start giving. You just get over yourself and you think, yeah. If I'm broke right now, it's because I didn't give. Right? If I'm in pain right now, it's because I hurt others. Then you just know that.
Well, how do you know when it's time to stop giving to someone, for instance? Because from what I understand of the question, sometimes you may feel that you help and you bring happiness, but it's the opposite, right?
Well, this is the thing, right? You can know that you can't get a negative thing from a positive thing, but you can also have the presence of mind. Like, you have to, let me put it this way, you have to use your appearance, you have to use what's there in the most appropriate way that you can think of in the moment. And that's the highest thing to do. So even though your mind knows, well, giving is the way, to create a beautiful, abundant world, but you can see that this person, I'll give you an example. So back when I was, how old was I? I guess I was about 36 or so. I went through a really rough time in my life financially. And I was constantly borrowing money all the time. And there was this one person who I would always go, they would be the last person I would go to. But I would always go to them, and I always knew that they would come up with the money for me. And I got, and it was always like, I was always late on the rent. I was always like advanced on my paychecks and this and that, and I would feel it. I would feel rent day coming, and I think, well, once again, the rent's $900, but I'm like $200 short. And I would phone up this person, and I would say, I hate to ask you again, but could I please borrow $200 so I can make the rent? I'll pay you back when I get paid in 2 weeks. Of course, then you get into this cycle, right? But this person just kept saying yes to me. And I can look at that and see that it would have been good for them to at one point say, no, you've got to get your shit together. You have to take responsibility. You have to figure out some way to get out of this cycle, right? And that would have been an act of kindness. and I may not have thought of it that way at the time. But I would have figured it out. I would have probably went to them and said, thank you for stopping. Because, you know, it made me like figure it out. So sometimes it can be a higher thing to say no. We just need to be honest with ourselves and judge the situation. And we just really, I'll tell you the bottom line. The bottom line is your motivation, right? Your motivation. Do you want to hurt this person or not? Do you want to help this person or not? And if the highest thing to do to help them is to say no, then that's what you need to do. Even if you may be wrong. You don't actually know. But if in your mind, the best thing that you can think of to say no, then you have to say no. Then you have to. Hi.
Sorry, I was in that situation where actually borrowing money thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't the person that was always giving until I think in your example you don't know when to stop. It's really painful to say no.
Yeah.
And then the person later on, a few months year after, they actually thank me because they got their shit together.
Yeah.
And it was a very difficult. It was really, really difficult for me to say. I felt like I was letting them down, that I was responsible for them for some reasons that I don't know why. And
Yeah.
it was really hard to make a decision to say, well, no.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just, it's not easy. Just for what she was.
No, it's not easy.
Really difficult.
It's not easy. And so you have to like know, right, your capacity. Does that help at all? Are you still you look vaguely unsatisfied, or is it
No,
it's okay?
Kind of a different question.
It's a difficult question, right? Yeah.
Well,
You want to give an example or something to make it clearer, or
no, I'm just wondering about so then if you start to do things, how do you? I'm trying to think. Well, how do you know when you're starting to do things in order to just make yourself feel good?
then
Because
I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
that
That is a great question. That is a great question. How you get to do that is simply you meditate and you just watch your mind. That's all. That's all you do. Because then, and only you needs to know. You just like, oh, I guess I didn't really give that very cleanly, and then you sit with it, and then you just try. You just try next time. You just try. You just start to recognize what's motivating you to do what you're doing, because that really is the bottom line, the big M, motivation. And so you can go through these things and find out, why did I give that thing? Why did I give that thing? How conditional was it? How conditional was it? Because that's where you're all going, is that place of unconditional love. That's the only love that's going to satisfy you, is beyond condition. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah.
In your situation, I think if the person refuses your help and you get upset, that's that will be because if you want to give them and they don't want it, then it's okay, right? If you just want to help and you don't need the help, then everybody's fine. But then if you're upset with the situation, I think that will be amazing.
Yeah, because all that you're going to be doing in the next little while is identifying identities. You will be identifying certain selves that you relate to. And it will be like, you know, we all have a certain self that gives and wants in return, and we all have a certain self that wants to get, right? And you just, and that's why we meditate. And whatever you do, please, I beg you, not to be hard on yourself, because it's just going to happen. It's just going to come up. You're just going to see that we do almost everything for selfish reasons until it's over. Until it's just our makeup. It's just our makeup, but we can do something about it. I had one guy that blew my mind, because when you're in that state of borrowing, you're almost like looking for your next victim all the time. Who can I borrow from next, you know? And I had this one guy that I borrowed from at work, and he stopped me from just giving me the money. And I never asked him again. He just said, "Oh, you can have it. I don't want any back from you." I was like, "Oh, that didn't really work," because I couldn't ask him again, right? I couldn't. And so that's another way. It's simply to say, "Yeah, take it. I don't want it back." Anyway, it's getting on in class now. I was hoping to do another meditation. Well, we can cut it off now. It's hot, or we can do another short meditation. Anybody have anything to say about that? Short meditation? Short meditation? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So we won't take really time with the setup. We're just going to try and relax right in. And how we'll do that is we will use the sound of the bowl. So when you hear the bowl, just listen to it and try and be completely aware of it until it's gone. And then when it's gone, try and rest in the silence in its wake. So watch your breath for a few moments. Stepping further back, sitting further back, watching the breath. And then further back still, watching the thoughts. And then try to slip into this space where you start to ask yourself the question, who is that watcher of the thoughts? What is this awareness? So as you sit and you're thinking to yourself, what is this awareness? What is awareness? Completely relax. And begin to just take in the sounds that you hear. And try to listen to them all at once. Try to hear every sound that could be heard all at one time. And then relax. And begin to just notice the pictures, the mental images that you see in your mind that is attached to the sounds that you hear. And just see them as shifting images. Don't pay too much attention to them, just notice them. And then shift your awareness to your concept of your world, the city, the place you live, the place we are here now in this room. Your body, see it all as shifting mental pictures. And then Where are those pictures coming from? What is this space that the pictures spring from? And they're not static. It's not like they're there frozen in time. They come and they go. They appear and they disappear. And then think of empty space. The empty space that provides the opportunity for your world to be in, to exist in. As far as you can imagine, the empty space that allows a universe to occupy it. The empty space that is needed so that your body can occupy it. And then think, what is this awareness? Where is this me that I think of, if I think of me? Is it ever just one thing? Try and catch the ripples across the empty space. That is the you that you think of as you. Try and sink your mind into the space that is needed for that to happen. And what is that awareness? Can it even be called a thing? And just rest there in the space of mind. Not hoping, not fearing. Not needing to go deeper. And try and rest in that place, however you've developed it or however you've managed to rest, whatever place you got to as we come out on the sound of the gong. Always coming out the same, very gently. Thank you, everybody. So enjoy your week. Do your best to play around with these. They're really, really fun. They're really fun. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. So by the time, so 2 more classes. So by the time we have our 10th class, we should have like a real program. Something to really be watchful of what we're doing and why we're doing it, so that we can hit the big time. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome.